Revelation 18:1 from the East will proclaim the fall of modern Babylon. Amazing Facts hosted by Doug Batchelor. In one of his episodes entitled The USA in Bible Prophecy, with website URL link below, under question number 14 of the said topic, Doug Batchelor admits the fact that the entire world will be illuminated with the glory of Revelation 18:1. Now the question is, how the message of Revelation 18:1 from the East, whose glory will illuminate the entire world, according to Doug Batchelor, has something to do with USA in Bible prophecy. We have the following. The Spirit of Prophecy by Mrs. Ellen G. White clearly emphasized that Revelation 18:1 will proclaim the fall of Babylon. The Review and Herald, December 13, 1892, paragraph 1. The Holy Bible is conclusive that the message to come out of Babylon, which meant apostasy, was proclaimed through Revelation 18:1 message whose glory arise from the East. Proofs regarding Revelation 18:1 that would proclaim the fall of Babylon according to both the Holy Bible and the Spirit of Prophecy, will arise from the East. Note. There is replication in direction from where the agents who contributed to the fall of both ancient and modern Babylon were called. Both of them were called forth from the East. Number 1. Fall of ancient Babylon. King Cyrus the Great, who played the major role to the fall of ancient Babylon, came from the East. He waited first for the literal drying of the river Euphrates and diverted its course to a manageable depth before he and his armies staged a surprise attack leading to the fall of ancient Babylon. Number 2. Fall of modern Babylon. Likewise, the direction from where the message that would proclaim the fall of modern Babylon, both spiritual and historical aspects, referring to the glory of Revelation 18:1 also arise from the East, Philippines, from where the man with the dirt brush who have unlocked the dream and vision of the collapse of world empires in Daniel chapter 2 was also called forth. They both came from the same direction, from the East. The proclamation of the fall of modern Babylon by Revelation 18:1, through its visionary from the East, as the man with the dirt brush, have waited for the symbolic drying of the river Euphrates to arrive, by the time when the threefold union in Revelation 16:13's dragon, beast, and the false prophet, are already taking shape. This great deception by the threefold union will be unveiled during the drying of the river Euphrates at the pouring out of the sixth plague, at the battle at Armageddon when Satan is a defeated foe at the judgment of the sanctuary, Ezekiel chapter 9. But before the symbolic drying of the river Euphrates will pave the way to the coming fall of modern Babylon, there will be a final contest between these two groups, as also foresaw by Doug Batchelor, as the genuine worldwide revival sponsored by God's end-time people by exalting the seventh-day Sabbath of the fourth commandment as the true day of worship, versus the counterfeit revival of the vast majority by exalting the misleading day of worship instituted by the human agency. You may refer to this website URL below, on how Doug Batchelor clearly illustrates the conflict between the two that will primarily took place inside USA in the final crisis. We now proceed to the topic on how Revelation 18:1 from the East will illuminate the entire world, as attested by Doug Batchelor, in his episode USA in Bible Prophecy. How Revelation 18:1 will proclaim the fall of modern Babylon, both historically and spiritually. Beforehand, the coming out of Babylon as proclaimed by Revelation 18:1 message from the East, has been misinterpreted by the Reform movement churches as the coming out of the SDA Church, which is very wrong interpretation. Then, what is truly meant by the coming out of Babylon before her fall? The fall of ancient Babylon is the most powerful nation on earth when it was shown by God to both King Nebuchadnezzar and the prophet Daniel respectively in Daniel chapter 2. Shadowed forth the coming fall of modern Babylon that symbolized the United States of America as the most powerful nation on earth today, to be explained clearly towards the end of this video. When America will shift herself from lamb-like beast to become image of the beast as prophecy declares, will trigger a domino effect globally and entirely among nations. Remember that the SDAGC headquarters is located inside USA, where religious persecution will primarily arise in the final crisis before the battle at Armageddon takes place during the sixth plague, at the symbolic drying of the river Euphrates, when the threefold union has already been exposed. That is why Revelation 18:1 message to come out of Babylon, literally applies for the departure of all faithful Sabbath keepers from the U.S. mainland, by the time when each head of the threefold union, are already seated in power. At present, their designated rank in power as well as their names are already identified clearly by the man with the dirt brush who have unveiled their true identities. This disclosure was contained in one of his written e-books. To all Sabbath keepers who have no option to depart from USA totally, as compared to what happened in Exodus when the whole congregation of Israelites were delivered out of Egypt during the time of Moses. There are many choices to seek refuge in hidden places such as caves and mountains to go on country living, that is far away from major cities inside the U.S. mainland. Many Sabbath keepers who ignored this final warning of not leaving their cities, will be entrapped inside USA where the SDAGC headquarters is located. They will suffer greatly, especially during the time when the fall of modern Babylon would transpire during the sixth plague at the symbolic drying of the river Euphrates. Question. What is the groundwork? Why the man with the dirt brush knew in advance the total number of SDAGC sessions allotted to the SDA Church. Answer. Through the Torah, from the great I Am. This is the very reason why the man with the dirt brush read from the Torah, through its code, see chart, as his guide to warn God's people about the coming fall of modern Babylon. The Torah from the great I Am that was given to Moses in Mount Sinai, after he led the Israelites out of Egypt, is the same Torah that will lead all Sabbath keepers in this last generation to come out of Babylon, symbolizing the United States of America. But how? The Torah pre-scheduled the total number of SDAGC sessions allotted to the SDA Church. This 62 marking from the word Torah, scheduled in advance the total number of 62 SDA General Conference sessions, which began by the time when the SDA Church was organized in the year 1863, until the 62nd SDAGC session which is yet to come, as to be the last. So by knowing the coming last 62nd SDAGC session to be rescheduled by year 2027 as scheduled in advance through the Torah code, will give preparation for all SDA brethren residing inside the United States, just before the fall of modern Babylon would take place. Right now, we are nearing the 61st SDAGC session this coming year 2022 that was postponed last 2020 and this year 2021, due to the coronavirus pandemic. So instead of the original schedule by the SDAGC to launch the 62nd session by year 2025, it will again be adjusted to year 2027 that will come 5 years after this coming 61st SDAGC session. The coming fall of modern Babylon would transpire during the sixth plague, just a year after the Torah pre-scheduled 62 SDAGC sessions allotted to the SDA Church have already reached its mark. But do you know what would transpire 2 years earlier before the start of the last 62nd SDAGC session, that is 2 years before year 2027, that the SDA brethren needs to be forewarned? By year 2025, Sunday law, the complete healing of the deadly wound that comes next to the partial healing of the deadly wound at the signing of the Lateran Treaty last 1929, was already fixedly located on chart as seen in the background, will be strictly enforced inside USA. So the situation inside America is too unfavorable to launch the coming last 62nd SDAGC session by year 2027, because at that time, all Sabbath keepers residing inside the United States are already being totally persecuted by the threefold union. Not unless if the SDAGC will decide to launch the last 62nd session outside the U.S. soil, where there will be less persecution. Let us hope and pray that representatives from all the 13 divisions of the global SDA Church are still safe and sound to attend the last ever 62nd SDAGC session. May God help us all. Mrs. Ellen G. White foresaw that many SDAs inside the U.S. mainland who ignored the final warning, while still they have the chance to come out of modern Babylon symbolizing the United States, got entrapped inside her wall in the event of the final crisis. And when these Sabbath keepers are brought before U.S. courts to answer for their faith, they backslide from the Advent faith and oppose to ties to become the most bitter enemies of their former SDA brethren. The Great Controversy, page 608, paragraph 2. Brethren, the warning that was given 120 years ago during the 34th SDAGC session, is now being repeated through Revelation 18:1 message, to come out of modern Babylon, symbolizing the United States of America. This warning is to be repeated by the man with the dirt brush, by the time when the symbolic drying of the river Euphrates is now taking shape. On pages 265 to 266 of GC Bulletin, April 16, 1901, we have the following. The day is coming when every Seventh-day Adventist in the United States would give everything that he has, and his life almost, if he could be outside of the United States. Let me say that again. I am speaking something now that interests every Seventh-day Adventist. The day is coming, and is not far off, when every Seventh-day Adventist will wish to the depths of his soul that he were out of the United States, and multitudes will condemn themselves, and will fret themselves under the condemnation, that they didn't go out of the United States when they had the chance. We now proceed on how the man with the dirt brush have unlocked the great image code mystery, Daniel chapter 2, on how the fall of ancient Babylon as the most powerful kingdom on earth at that time, shadowed forth the most powerful nation on earth today, the United States of America as inscribed under the great image code. The time will be fulfilled as foretold in Revelation 18, when the mighty angel that shall lighten the earth with his glory, Revelation 18:1 from the east, will proclaim the fall of Babylon, and call upon God's people to forsake her. The Review and Herald, December 13, 1892, paragraph 2. Brethren, the fall of Babylon as shown in vision by God to Daniel in Daniel chapter 2, are both spiritual and historical in meaning. Spiritual, in a sense that there's a deterioration of religion and morality among the people of these kingdoms resulting to their fall as a result of national apostasy. Physical, in a sense that the dream presents a synopsis of world history of four powerful kingdoms, until finally the collapse of this temporal kingdoms on earth, to be replaced by the setting up of God's kingdom of glory, symbolized by the stone which smote down the great image. Daniel interpreted what is meant by the symbols that were shown to King Nebuchadnezzar in his dream, on what was symbolized by the elements such as gold, silver, brass, iron, mixture of iron and clay, comprising the great image statue, as the succession of great world empires in history which come and go, until their final collapse when the stone that was cut out of the mountain fell into its feet. How the man with the dirt brush have unlocked the great image code mystery in Daniel chapter 2 dream and vision of the collapse of world empires, by using the symbolic 2300 days reckoning as the timeline under Revelation 18:1 from the east. By applying the symbolic 2300 days reckoning, see bottom portion of the chart in the background, to the entire chapter and verse location of Daniel 2:24-45 that mention the dream by King Nebuchadnezzar and the interpretation of the said dream as shown in vision by God to the prophet Daniel, we could see clearly on how the scripture interpret itself, as written on chart by the man with the dirt brush who was given access to unlock the coming end of world history. See charts. Unlocking the Great Image Code Mystery in Daniel chapter 2, by the man with the dirt brush. The Great Image Code transpired by year 2004, signifying the collapse of all temporal kingdoms on earth from its 12 foundations, that will arrive at the end of the heavenly sign of the prophet Jonah. Namely 72 heavens hours equivalent to 24 years on earth after 2004 AD. There were harbingers just before the Great Image Code transpired at 2004 AD. They all gave witness to the number that is 4. We have the following. Number 1. The U.S. bombardment in Iraq during the last 2003 U.S.-Iraq War, began at 4 a.m., Iraqi time. Number 2. During the last 9/11 terrorist attack inside the United States last 2001, there were 4 hijacked airplanes piloted by the terrorists. 2 of the planes crashed into the Twin Towers of New York City's World Trade Center, while the third was flown into the Pentagon, the Department of Defense headquarters near Washington. While passengers on the 4th plane, en route to Washington, retook control of the aircraft and crashed it into a field in Pennsylvania. Number 3. The Great Image Code that disclosed the 206 marking as the end of probationary period for all 4 temporal kingdoms on earth, where we could see the number that is 4. While the 5th kingdom represented by the stone that smote down the whole image statue, is not temporal, but everlasting. Number 4. Year 2004 when the Great Image Code transpired, lies at 6,004 years from creation. Notice the excess of 4 years to the close of 6,000 years. America has laid another foundation at Ground Zero for Freedom Tower in New York City last July 4, 2004, coincided with the same year when the Great Image Code transpired.
What the curtain revealed was breathtaking. A 20-ton piece of New York granite, now the cornerstone of the Freedom Tower, the first and tallest building to be built at Ground Zero.
Today, as we lay this cornerstone, we remember the liberties that are the bedrock of our nation, the foundation that can never be shaken.
Without knowing, the delegates in New York City have repeated in history the same event that happened in Israel many years ago, that defies the destruction of their edifice and high-built structure by reversing the situation of trying to re-establish a new foundation, while repeatedly pronouncing the same words uttered in Isaiah 9:10's sycamore tree, when the cornerstone was laid at Ground Zero for Freedom Tower in New York. See the remains of the sycamore tree that was struck down at the corner of Ground Zero, as the debris of the World Trade Center towers came falling down last 2001, has been revived and now standing in 9/11 memorial known as the Survivor Tree. This is a sign of national judgment to hit America, which also took place in Israel many years back, as also pronounced through a sycamore tree in Isaiah 9:10. The bricks are fallen down, but we will build with hewn stones, the sycamores are cut down, but we will change them to cedars. This proves the fact that the 9/11 tragedy last 2001, and the laying of the cornerstone at Ground Zero for Freedom Tower in New York last 2004, are both connected under the Great Image Code. Number 5. The four angels standing on the four corners of the earth, holding the four winds to be released after the sealing of God's people was done by another angel ascending from the east, Revelation chapter 7. This another angel ascending from the east in Revelation chapter 7 verses 1-3, refers to the angel of the covenant, according to the spirit of prophecy, who cried with a loud voice to the four angels standing on the four corners of the earth, to hold in check the four winds until the last message of warning and mercy has been accomplished by the angel that is to lighten the earth with his glory. Revelation 18:1 from the east, as the fourth angel's message, where we could see in figure the number that is 4. The four winds represent the terrible scenes of conquest and revolution by which kingdoms have attained to power. The Great Controversy, page 439 paragraph 3. When the four winds in Revelation chapter 7 be released, this would mean war among nations to escalate towards the final crisis. Number 6. Revelation 18:1 from the east that proclaims the second message of the gospel, God's kingdom of glory, is the fourth angel's message, that unites with the third angel's message from the west which proclaims the first message of the gospel, God's kingdom of grace. They unite by year 2002 at the start of the last period of probation ever granted to mankind, that was 2 years before the Great Image Code transpired last 2004 AD. Likewise, by combining all the symbols that were used under the Great Image in Daniel chapter 2 dream and vision of world empires during the time of King Nebuchadnezzar, and Daniel's dream of 4 successive world empires during the time of King Belshazzar in Daniel chapter 7, will identify the man with the dirt brush in William Miller's dream, who was given the open door as promised through the Philadelphia Sixth Church open door message, Revelation 3:7-8, Key of David, see chart, to unlock the coming end of world history. This chart proves the very reason why the man with the dirt brush is the 2 olive trees imparted to human instrumentalities, has been chosen by God to write down on chart, the open door message in relation to time when the little book of John has been completely unsealed, the fulfillment of John's vision in Revelation 10:8 that arrived by 2002 AD, that was pinned on chart by the Key of David, as contained inside the Philadelphia Sixth Church open door message, that unite with the Laodicean Seventh Church period, SDA Church by year 2002. Question. What is shadowed forth by the coming of the kings of the East, Cyrus and his generals during the drying of the river Euphrates, before the fall of ancient Babylon? In connection to the coming fall of modern Babylon in our present generation. Answer. The fall of ancient Babylon that took place after the drying of the river Euphrates during the Battle of Persia led by Cyrus, against Babylon led by Belshazzar, the grandson of King Nebuchadnezzar, shadowed forth the fall of modern Babylon that would come in the last days during the battle at Armageddon. The prophet Isaiah wrote of Cyrus in messianic term in Isaiah 45:1. The reason why the drying of the river Euphrates before the fall of modern Babylon will take place in the last days during the 6th plague before the coming of the kings of the East, referring to Christ and his heavenly armies. Christ at the end of investigative judgment will exit from the same east gate of the heavenly sanctuary that he entered once, Ezekiel 44:1-3, to gather his heavenly armies before his second coming on earth that will come shortly right after the 7th last plague has been poured out. That is why the 6th plague will dry up the river Euphrates to prepare the way of the kings of the East, an image obviously based in the drying of the Euphrates that facilitated the attack of the Medo-Persian army led by Cyrus. We now come to what is meant by the symbolic drying of the river Euphrates. The symbolic drying of the river Euphrates symbolized the withdrawal of human support from Babylon. Babylon is pictured as sitting upon many waters. Revelation 17:1. Waters represent peoples and multitudes and nations, the supporters of Babylon. Revelation 17:15. Babylon the Great, commonly known as the whore of Babylon, refers to the woman who sit upon a scarlet-colored beast that sit upon many waters, whose full title that is written in her forehead, bear the description that was in Revelation 17:5, as mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. How the title that is written on her forehead will disclose to us what church is symbolized by that woman in Revelation chapter 17, after unveiling the period in history when the first beast in Revelation 13:1-10, referring to papal Rome, began rising into power. The Spirit of Prophecy by Mrs. Ellen G. White mentioned that by drinking the wine of Babylon is the most deadly heresy. Manuscript Releases Volume 19, page 381, paragraph 3. See how the scripture interpret itself, in unveiling the period in history, when the first beast, papal Rome, began rising into power in 538 AD, that was 504 years after 34 AD. Notice how this span of 504 years period was pinned on chart, through the title that is written on the woman's forehead, symbolizing the Church of Rome, in line with the allotted time given to the papacy to rule for a time and times and half the time, Daniel 7:25, namely 1260 years that is written in Revelation 13:5, as the power given to the papacy that would reach 1798 AD. It was in 1798 AD when General Berthier and Napoleon Bonaparte of France inflicted a deadly wound upon the papacy when the Pope was taken captive. The partial healing of its deadly wound came when Rome's power was restored in 1929. By the signing of Lateran Treaty, the Pope was given the right to rule the Vatican state of nearly 109 acres of land. The word seed whose code is 33, pinned on chart the title and the name of the 264th Pope, listed in Annuario Pontificio of the Vatican. He was the sixth Pope from 1929, who came next to the first 5 kings that are mentioned in Revelation 17:10, referring to the first 5 popes since 1929 starting from Pope Pius XI who have signed the Lateran Treaty when the beast wound was partially healed. Next after John Paul II, are the 7th Pope referring to Pope Benedict XVI, followed by the 8th Pope as to be the last, referring to Pope Francis. See how they are both figuratively pointed out in Revelation 17:11, as well as the chapter and verse location of Revelation 17:11 locates on chart. The accuracy of 1929 AD when the beast wound was partially healed through the signing of Lateran Treaty, as the point of origin, from where all these 8 kings in Revelation 17:10-11, referring to the total of 8 popes, are based. After we have presented the fact on how the scripture in Revelation 17:5, interpret itself on how the title, mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth, that is written on the forehead of the woman symbolizing the Church of Rome, sitting upon a scarlet-colored beast symbolizing the first beast as papal Rome or papacy. And both of them sitteth upon many waters symbolizing peoples and multitudes and nations. Revelation 17:1. For the reason that Rome today has other denominations, the question is, what particular title of the church was affiliated to the title that is written on the forehead of the woman who sit upon a scarlet-colored beast? Revelation 17:3. And how about the complete healing of the deadly wound that was inflicted on the first beast referring to papal Rome? When will it arrive? It will arrive later when the last 2 horns, also being referred as the last 2 kings, on the next Bible verse Revelation 17:12, are added to this 8 kings that we mentioned earlier, to make it 10 horns completely, as the verse implies. While the last 8th king or horn came from the first beast, papal Rome. The other 2 that will unite later with the last 8th Pope of the Vatican, will come from the second beast, the United States of America. The 9th horn is the false prophet, an active Protestant leader from America, as also confirmed by Doug Batchelor in one of his episodes entitled The USA in Bible Prophecy. See chart. And finally the 10th horn is the dragon, a powerful world leader politician from USA. That is why the union of this 3, as the threefold union in Revelation 16:13, will pave the way to the complete healing of the deadly wound, and will arrive by the time when the second beast, United States of America, will shift itself to become image of the beast. Revelation 13:11-17. These actions by USA on how it exercise all the power of the first beast. It caused worship of the first beast. It gives life unto the image of the beast, and finally it will causeth all to receive the mark of the beast. When the threefold union in Revelation 16:13's dragon, beast and false prophet are already united in power. The complete healing of the deadly wound will arrive by year 2025, when Sunday law enforcement will be strictly implemented inside USA. How did modern Babylon get the support of the nations of the earth? It was through the three unclean spirits which went forth from the mouth of the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet, Revelation 16:13. People under their organization support their ranks and power. This threefold union in Revelation 16:13 as the union of dragonic bond, has been warned many years back by Mrs. Ellen G. White, as the existing union of men of different denominations to oppose the present truth, whose only bond seems to be that which is dragonic in its nature, manifesting hatred and bitterness against the remnant who keep the commandments of God. What happens next when the people, and multitudes, and nations supporting each group finally withdraw their support, in financing each of the threefold union, which meant the symbolic drying of the river Euphrates? It is evident that during the outpouring of the plagues from the first to the fifth plague, the nations will come to realize that modern Babylon has led them in deception, and this will result in their hatred of her, so that they withdraw their support, such as donations, penance, indulgences, tithes and offerings. During the sixth plague upon the drying of the river Euphrates, the stage is set up for the coming of the kings of the east. These kings are the deliverers of God's people, as shadowed forth just as Cyrus and his armies were deliverers of God's people in the overthrow of ancient Babylon, when God directed Cyrus to conquer ancient Babylon by diverting the Euphrates River. The kings of the east, Revelation 16:12, are in contrast to the kings of the earth and of the whole world. Revelation 16:14. Question. How then does the two beasts in Revelation chapter 13, referring to the first beast, papal Rome, Revelation chapter 13 verses 1 to 10, and the second beast, United States of America, Revelation chapter 13 verses 11 to 17, are both connected to the fall of modern Babylon, as shadowed forth through the fall of ancient Babylon, from the dream and vision of the collapse of world empires under the Great Image Code in Daniel chapter 2. We have the following. While papal Rome emerged from the pagan Roman Empire, symbolized by the iron element as the fourth kingdom under the Great Image. USA, on the other hand, although it's not part of the 10 kingdoms represented by the 10 toes, as the mixture of iron and clay, located at the feet of the Great Image. The New World, or America, became the place of refuge and hiding place for all the remnants of these 10 kingdoms who have escaped from religious persecution, during the 1260 years of papal supremacy from 538 AD to 1798 AD. The 10 kingdoms represented by the 10 toes as the mixture of iron and clay, located at the feet of the Great Image, were formerly the 10 divisions of the Western Roman Empire. These 10 kingdoms were Anglo-Saxons as England, Franks as France, Visigoths as Spain, Alemanni as Germany, Suevi as Portugal, Burgundians as Switzerland, Lombards as Italy. The last three kingdoms, which were Heruli, Vandals, and finally Ostrogoths, that was destroyed in 538 AD, as the year when the first beast mentioned in Revelation chapter 13 verses 1 to 10, papal Rome began rising into power. In 1798 AD, while the first beast referring to papal Rome declined in power, when the 250th pope was taken captive at the end of 1260 years of papal supremacy, the United States of America as the second beast, on the other hand, was rising into power that same year. And this 1798 marking which effect in history both the first beast and the second beast that same year, are both inscribed under the Great Image Code in Daniel chapter 2, dream and vision of the collapse of world empires. The fact that the United States will exercise all the power of the first beast, to give life unto the image of the beast, and will causeth all to receive the mark of the beast, gave final confirmation why the United States of America is no other than the historical modern Babylon, from where the Sabbath keepers needs to be forewarned to come out of her, as proclaimed by Revelation 18:1 message from the east, to come out of Babylon. What has been drawn on charts by the two olive trees as shown in this video has been brought to us through the lively oracles given unto us, Acts 7:38, on how the scripture interpret itself. See how the chapter and verse location of Acts 7:38 identify clearly on chart the title of God's chosen church from the Old to the New Covenant, as the recipient of this lively oracles handed down to us. Also the Torah given to Moses, by the great I Am on Mount Sinai, see chart, disclosed the title of God's chosen church founded by Jesus Christ, whose co-founder is Mrs. Ellen G. White, as her name was inscribed into it thousands of years even before the SDA Church came in history. This chart also gave testimony that we could not find any suffixed title, Reform Movement Church, that was added to the original title Seventh-day Adventist Church founded by our Lord Jesus Christ, which proves the existing reality that the man with the dirt brush came forth from within the walls of the SDA Church, and not from any branches of SDARM organization that are outside the walls of the SDA Church. Brethren, get yourself aware regarding where we are now in prophecy after Revelation 18:1 from the east, has already united with the three angels' messages from the west, whose union constitutes the light of the present truth through the gospel. By acquiring the 265-page ebook copy with 128 charts, available upon request to the two olive trees. Kindly please do not forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. God bless us all.